we're shying away from the conversation that everyone would like to have. Conversation of goal, of purpose, of mission, of utopia, of a better life, a better tomorrow, a brighter future. These aren't bonus items of life. These are the central conversations that a human being needs. We need hope to be able to live. I don't think a shliach should teach about Moshiach if it's going to be a boring, dull class because some sort of checklist that the Rebbe said or that they feel guilty of and therefore I'm teaching a class. That would be the worst class ever. Even a Maskabel doesn't mean cutting things out. It means trying to help people understand. Great, let's understand.
Hi, Rabbi Wilhelm. Thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful afternoon for a conversation about Moshiach, about how we teach Moshiach, how we share about Moshiach. And I hope it's going to be an enjoyable conversation.
It's been nice to meet you. And we're looking forward to a great conversation on a critical topic with some good friends in the room here.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Here we go. All right. So I'm going to start with a bit of a loaded question. I think it's an interesting question that a lot of Lubavitchers that teach Mashiach and share about Mashiach is important to them. In your shlichus, I imagine I don't know how much, but it comes up enough, speaking about Mashiach, teaching, sharing. Would you say that sharing and teaching about Mashiach is more of like a chore, it's a chiyuv, a chayiv on a Lubavitcher to do, a shliach? Or are you passionate about it, something that you actually are excited to bring up or excited when they ask the question?
I think that in life we do things that we must do. So if we're asking, is it something that must be done? The answer would be yes. But ultimately, we end up gravitating to the things that we're passionate about. So when we teach about Mashiach or discuss Mashiach, it's going to come from a place of passion, and that will be much more interesting, and it creates much more interesting conversation. So I would say whatever we talk about and learn about and discuss regarding Mashiach will end up being shared with passion. And just in general, as a shliach, as a human, and as a shliach, if you share things that you're not passionate about, people stop listening to you, right? If I'm not going to be passionate about this conversation right now, no one's going to listen to our podcast, and they'd be right. Because who wants to listen to unpassionate things? It's so boring and so unauthentic. So whatever you share and do talk about, be passionate about it. Now you might ask, well, but I'm not passionate about it. Okay. So there's ways of building passion in life and interest. It could be because someone challenges you. Challenge could create passion. People ask you challenging questions. People challenge your position, challenge your identity, challenge your belief system. Or it could be because you're motivated because you followed or learned, let's say, the Sichos of the Rebbe. You just learned about Mashiach. You realize the importance of Mashiach. You realize the world is heading somewhere. There's a goal to this world. There's somewhere we're heading and doing, and there's a purpose, everything. Wow, okay. So then get behind that passion, right? People have a job. They get more passionate they are behind the job is if they see that the job is going to create meaning in life, create money for them in life, create purpose for them in life. Family, you could be more passionate about your children. If you feel that they're part of your journey of life, you'll be more passionate.
I think it's true, but the problem is that there are things that we need to talk about even if we aren't passionate about it. So at the end of the day, just because someone's
What do you talk about that you're not passionate about? Give me an example.
When I'm teaching, not necessarily at home, but when I'm teaching, things will come up and it's like, okay, we have to go through the age of the world again. Let's go. You ask me a question, I'll have to answer you.
Yeah, but ultimately, you're passionate about the person getting information. You're passionate about them being a good teacher. You're passionate about them having a good classroom. If there's no passion, you're not going to have a lot of conversations in life. Those are very cryptic conversations that are very boring.
And it's clear, right? Those classes don't go well. The ones that you're just trying to cover Chaimer and just move forward.
I don't think a shliach should teach about Mashiach if it's going to be a boring, dull class because there's some sort of checklist that the Rebbe said or that they feel guilty of and therefore I'm teaching a class. That would be the worst class ever. Don't do it. Probably against what the Rebbe wants. If you taught a dull, unimpassioned, boring Mashiach class. It's like the guys after davening who get up and say, "Klab the bima," when everyone's talking, you're going to go Mashiach. I'm not a fan of that. I could be totally wrong here. But from my perspective, though, it's good because it reminds people that Mashiach is, on the air and is on the agenda. But if it's not real, like if it's just doing it because some sort of checklist, I don't know if it's serving much of a purpose. So you could say, well, in that case, it's serving a purpose because the purpose is that everyone remembers that we need to talk about Mashiach, and this is an important issue, and it's a way of pushing it to the forefront. Okay, great. But if you're going to teach a Gemara class and you don't like Gemara, don't teach a Gemara class.
No, I think you're right, because I think at the end of the day, if you teach Mashiach in a way which is you're clearly not passionate about it, then people get the wrong image of it. It's either some wild thing that a dystopia people are worried about. You can't give over an exciting vision of something.
I want to interrupt you for a second. I just want to say that in life, I think that almost every teacher, when they end up teaching a class, gets excited about it. How come? You're a teacher. You teach every day. You didn't choose necessarily what content or chayim you have to teach, but how could a teacher get passionate? The general rule of life is when you learn about something and you find out a lot more, it suddenly becomes interesting, especially if it's such an incredibly meaningful, deep concept like Mashiach. So even if you go into preparing the class not so passionate, once you start preparing a class and get into it, you're going to become passionate. It becomes very interesting. And it is interesting. Right, especially if there's tension, and Mashiach has tension around it, and tension is how we all create growth in life, is through tension. So, yeah, say something radical, say something crazy, get someone to push back on you, have them say, Rabbi, I just don't believe a word you said. Good, now the Shliach's going to get passionate, right? You say that's a Chabad thing, that's a Lubavitch thing. Oh, you're a fanatic. Oh, good, let's get into it. Why am I a fanatic? Now we're excited. Now it's conversation. Now we've created tension. Now this is interesting. Now there's passion in the room.
Okay, so you just mentioned one way of creating passion is creating not diversity, but creating tension, which is great. But what are other ways?
No, but the main way, which I was really trying to say, is through learning. When you learn about a topic, when you're invested in something, you generally become interested in it, right? People who read the news every day, the news is important to them. If you don't read the news every day, it's not so exciting. Who cares, right? People who follow sports and they get the stats and they're excited. If you don't follow sports, you're like, this is boring. This doesn't make sense, right? If you follow the stock market's very vibrant. But if you don't, it's just a bunch of charts. They say dull numbers. It means nothing. Anything in life that we learn a lot about and get invested in, we become passionate about. I'm trying to think of an exception to the rule, but that would be the general rule.
No, but at the end of the day, you need something to pull you into even learning about it, right? If something doesn't interest you, b'chlal, then you're not even going to start the whole conversation. So Mashiach is interesting because it really does have it. There is another entrance in, and that is, learning is the best way to go to it. But there is the conversation about how you would bring it out to the world and the mission element of it. So there is maybe another way of creating passion as well. But because again, learning is a great idea. If someone's learning about Mashiach, I'm not worried they're not going to be passionate about it. But there's so many things that are interesting to me, but I don't learn them because I just didn't get around to sitting down to do it. Like not everything which is great am I going to do. Maybe
because when we talk about learning seems like you have to open a safer. It has to be very text-based, and which could feel monotonous and boring. But there's a lot of ways to learn things in life. There's thinking, there's viewing, reading articles, listening to podcasts, listening to this podcast, right? No, but there's a lot of ways of learning and engaging in conversation. Mashiach should be from the most exciting conversations there is, just as a topic. Ultimately, we're Hashem's salesmen. We're here to sell Torah. We're here to sell mitzvahs. We're here to sell love of Hashem, Avos Yisrael. We're here to sell. We're selling, but we're not the back office. We're not writing the script. We don't have to write, what is Mashiach. We don't have to write what is Torah. Hashem wrote what the content, and we're selling that content. We're sharing that content. We're trying to engage in the content. And that, first of all, as a general rule, is very important when talking about Mashiach or anything, but I think about Mashiach because a lot of times people are uncomfortable. Why are you uncomfortable? You didn't write this. It's not a personal judgment. You know what I mean? This is what Hashem said in the Torah. So the Rebbe taught us. Okay, now go and share it. In other words, and if you're uncomfortable, it's probably something about you that you're uncomfortable that you have to explore, not about the content. The Rambam writes, right, at the end of Rambam, that the Christians and the Muslims, their whole journey was so that Mashiach should be popular in the world. Mashiach is a concept that the whole world wants to believe in. Talk about hope and healing in this world. Where are people supposed to believe in a brighter future If we're not, that's Mashiach. I mean, it's the greatest product to sell is really Mashiach. And the main reason is because what's the purpose of the world? I mean, the Rebbe spoke basically every Shabbos about Dir B'Tachtonim. What is Dir B'Tachtonim translated to? Is Mashiach. So I'll give you an example of every Shabbos that will mention Mashiach is when we say L'Shem Yichud, right? Every day we say L'Shem Yichud. What is L'Shem Yichud? L'Shem Yichud essentially is our mission statement, right? So every day before we start davening, and for Chabad it's once a day for the whole day, but really it's for all our mitzvahs, is what am I doing? What's my mission statement? What am I doing? Am I just living life and just doing whatever makes me happy? And maybe because I'm a Yid, so therefore what makes me happy is serving Hashem or doing Torah mitzvahs because it can get me some schar, some reward, some olam haba, maybe because I'm afraid or because I'm excited. But what am I accomplishing? What am I doing? And Mashiach is the answer. L'shem yichud, we're going to unite Kudsha Brichu, Hashem U'Shchinte in His presence in this world. That's what we're here to do. So our mission statement, and that's why it's so empowering, is to bring Mashiach. So talk about Dir B'Tachtonim, a mission statement. The Rebbe spoke about it every Shabbos. It's something that people want to hear. And the Rebbe actually says that the younger people are, the more important it is for them to know their purpose. And the more they want to talk about their purpose. Teenagers want to talk the most about purpose, right? Because what is my purpose in this world? So if we're not, Mashiach is talking about purpose. What's more exciting than talking about someone's purpose in this world? But also it's so important to frame and understand. It's not framing. It's translating literally the words of, let's say, of davening. This is written in the Siddur. This is our mission statement. This is what we're here to do. This gives purpose to everything I'm doing today, is to unite Hashem and bring Hashem's presence in this world. That's Mashiach. Right now we don't see Hashem in this world. Then we will see Geulah, right? We'll see Hashem in this world. Or like I say, we're building together with the home Hashem. We married Hashem at Har Sinai. And what do married couples do? They build a home. So we are together with Hashem building a home. And when are we going to move into the home? When Mashiach comes. Okay, so we better get on this journey. We better get on this purpose. Which brings me to another point I want to share, which is, people say about teaching about Mashiach. There is an idea, and the Rebbe, of course, shared, to teach about Mashiach is like, now Mashiach share, right? In Yeshiva you had, during supper, 20 minutes, we'll bring you some snacks, Mashiach share. Or we're doing Mashiach class right now, which is great. But it's also a little bit sad because it's like isolating Mashiach into a topic, right? Mashiach isn't a topic. Mashiach is the goal that weaves through everything that we're doing. And it's included in everything we're doing. It's not an isolated conversation. And maybe that's why the Rebbe said, like, this is our shluchus now. I mean, he says our shluchus now is in everything we're doing to just clearly show our purpose. What are we trying to do? We're putting on tefillin. Why? Because we want to make Dir B'Tachtonim, or translate as Mashiach, building a home for Hashem. The words that work for you. That's what we're doing. 5 times in every Shemoneh Esrei, we're mentioning Mashiach. It's not a random thing. It's not a side thing. It's infused in everything we're doing. And so sometimes if we're going to move now we're learning about Mashiach, first of all, it's interesting, it's good, but maybe it's isolating Mashiach too much. Maybe it has to just be part of the normal conversation. We're talking about davening. How can Mashiach not be part of that conversation? We're talking about Rosh Hashanah crowning Hashem of the King. That's Mashiach. Yeah.
So I'm gonna push back here just to drop. And usually I traditionally leave the plug-in for the Alef at the end, but here you already brought it up. But we put out a weekly lesson. So we are kind of asking people to do or trying to get people to do a Mashiach learning, a Charusa, whatever it is, because I agree with you that it definitely is so much more than just a shir. And when it's just, a clap on the bima or a gathering just for that, then it kind of, when you're yotzeh with just like, okay, I spoke about it today, or I did a little shir and then I'm fine. It has to be so much more than that. But at the end of the day, as you said, when we study about something, then it really starts overflowing everywhere else. I can tell you in school, where I teach this once a week, it's a non-religious high school, Mashiach becomes a conversation the rest of the week too, because they know I'm the guy to speak to about Mashiach, any other questions, any other stuff. And then if we speak about purpose, we speak about mission, we speak about, again, each topic really it's a unique topic, right? It's not just each paper saying Mashiach's coming, Mashiach's coming, Mashiach's coming. Each one has a different topic which connects to obviously Stroll and Shuva and Staka and Donut, anything which will purpose, youth, anything which is going to come up in your life, the Mashiach version of it. And it really creates it throughout the week. So I'm asking with you.
You said well, because ultimately Mashiach is the utopian truth of everything in the world. So if we want to talk about what's the ultimate truth of teenagers, which I think is this week's topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So that's going to be the Mashiach of that topic is going to be the deepest truth of that topic. Okay, fascinating, right? If you want to learn the greatest way to build a home, Mashiach will give you reflection on that. If we're going to talk about relationships and marriage and dating, Mashiach is part of that conversation, because ultimately that's our relationship with Hashem being expressed in the ultimate, right? So the Mashiach of each topic is like the neshama of each topic, right? Which is, right, Mashiach is
Shliach with a yud,
right,
with the text and nefesh.
But it's really the epitome of everything, and if we highlight it that way, it becomes incredible and becomes so interesting and so empowering.
So you're actually bringing up another very interesting struggle, which that is, people today, as you can imagine, I mean, you probably deal with this a lot more than me, always want to figure out themselves. All right, it's always about what will give me passion, what will give me meaning, what will give me this, what will give me that. And Mashiach, even though the same truth of Mashiach is true in your own life, right? The Geulah Klalis has the Geulah Pratis version. At the end of the day, what we're selling with Mashiach, or what we're supposed to be selling with Mashiach, is more mission based on a grander level. We have a world plan here.
Well, who said, by the way, what you just said is true? No, because the Rebbe always said, bring your Mashiach, which in turn will trigger the world's Mashiach. Is that not accurate?
Granted, there definitely is a Geulah Pratis. The way we deal with it is by engaging our Geulah Pratis. But there is a Shrinta Begalusa. There is that the world is looking for salvation and liberation, and the world's looking for this, a redemption, right? That's what people are hearing when they're hearing about Mashiach. And the way I think that might be something which people have a harder time dealing with, right? You'll speak to a kid today sometimes, and they'll be like, okay, Mashiach is a good future for the world, right? And Chabad also might do the same thing. Mashiach is when the rabbi starts speaking crazy, that's when he starts talking about Mashiach. When he starts going, oh, the world will change, everything will change. But they want to hear something about themselves. So, you could say Mashiach's all about you, but is that fully correct? Or maybe we do need to figure out a way, or it's not up for me, you in here to figure it out, but to develop in our minds the right oisius, the right words to explain how Mashiach as a general mission for the world is also something which is very, very negaya to you. It makes a big difference to you as well.
I want to say that the greatest struggle to teaching about Mashiach and talking about Mashiach, and for us to believe in Mashiach, right? Why is Mashiach such a unclear, or sometimes considered a topic of, flighty, not grounded, not relatable? I think it's for one reason, and this is Hashem's fault, which is because Mashiach's not here, right? And how long could we wait? I mean, in the Ani Mammon, it says this problem. In the Ani Mammon, it basically, and this is the only Ani Mammon that says, listen, we're going to have a problem. We're going to tell people you have a belief, and they love that belief. I mean, Mashiach is the greatest belief. It's the belief that there's going to be a brighter future, there's going to be a better tomorrow, that, we're in the concentration camp, but we're going to get out of here, or we're having great times, things are going to be incredible, there'll be no pain, no suffering. What could be a better selling point than that? It's amazing to sell Mashiach. The problem is Hashem didn't bring Mashiach, and he's making it really hard for his sales team for people to believe in it, because you say the check is in the mail, the check is coming, it's coming. Eventually people say, no, it's not coming. And I think the Rebbe was frustrated by that when the Rebbe tried to demand Mashiach, and he wants us to demand Mashiach. It's true. That's the hardest selling point of Mashiach. Everybody believes there'll be a better tomorrow. But the human psyche wants to believe in a better tomorrow. We want to believe in the good of all people, right? Deep down, people want to believe that everybody's good. And they want to believe that there'll be a time where there'll be no strife and suffering, and there's going to be a beautiful world, and there'll be no jealousy, and there'll be no harm, and there'll be no war, and all our loved ones will come back from the dead. It should be the easiest sell. This is what everyone wants to believe. What's the challenge? That Hashem didn't bring Mashiach. And it's long overdue, and it's been said for so long, And that's why the Rambam has to say, you're right. It's going to get really hard because it is delayed. And it's way overdue. All right. Kalu Kala Kitzin, we just had in those learning the daf, right? It just had, right? It's way overdue. And the fact that the Yidden still are waiting for Mashiach shows the testament to how incredible the Yidden are, that we still do. But the concept of Mashiach is the most natural human concept. We believe in a brighter tomorrow. We want to believe in a brighter tomorrow. It's just that when you get hurt time and time again, right? When you believe that tomorrow will be different, and it's not. Eventually, your brain or your Yetzer Hara says, stop, you're hurting yourself. And that's the challenge to Mashiach. The challenge is that the default position that everyone wants to believe, the default dream that everyone has, the natural thought is, of course, tomorrow will be better. Of course, there's a brighter future. Obviously, God, Hashem, didn't mean the world to remain like this. Obviously, there's going to be great times. The problem is it hasn't happened. So then people say, listen, you're selling a fantasy. What do you mean? What do you want? I can't. There's too much suffering in the world. There's too much. I believe for too long. How much do you want me to believe? And we as a Jewish people, it's like shared trauma. We have a trauma that we've been waiting so long, and so many people die saying Ani Mammon. Okay, so eventually we get frustrated. And that's Hashem's fault. And I'm not letting him off, just so you know. I'm not letting Hashem off of this conversation. I know in the podcast it doesn't feel like, yeah, it's Hashem's making it very difficult, and rightfully so. And that's why we have to say on Masai, like there's, but again, I just want to say that Mashiach as a topic, as a belief, is from the most normal and natural beliefs that a human being wants to believe, desperately, goal-oriented, brighter future and a better tomorrow.
It's a very good point. And people have to remember this. You have to remember who's responsible at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the struggle in a way is a little bit harder also, because we're not only asked to believe in Mashiach, because even though it's so hard, and even though we went through so many generations and in our own lives, people have things that, I've asked that, there were real struggles that you really wanted Mashiach, and personal reasons, closet reasons, whatever it is. There's also, we're supposed to do something about it. We're not told, okay, just believe. Because believing, okay, I can try having an optimistic spirit. You want me to do something about it. You want me to study, to teach, to work, to go, to do, to make the world a better place, to change the world. You're asking me to do something when it's hard for me to believe that it's actually going to happen in my lifetime. That's a whole different story. You're not asking me to just believe. That would be, bad enough. Not bad enough. Whatever. That would be its own thing. You're asking here to live my life with a passion, with a drive, with an ambition, with a chayas, to do something which it isn't coming naturally. But
what happens if we reframe that we're being asked and say, your neshama came down here with a purpose. And this is my purpose on this world. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to bring Mashiach. We as a collective Yidden and me as an individual Yid, my whole purpose is to bring Mashiach. It's like you go to work and you say, what am I doing here? What do you mean? I'm here to accomplish whatever I need to accomplish, to make money. There's a goal. If you take Mashiach out of the equation, there's no goal. We're just wandering aimlessly through life. Everything sort of falls apart the second we're going to take Mashiach out of the picture. Yes, it's frustrating. It's like your boss is not sending the checks. But you were working so that the boss should send the check, right? I'll give another example. Okay, I work with young professionals. Most of them are single, right? It's like person's dating year after year, person after person after person. Eventually, they just get frustrated, right? Do they ever say, forget it, I'm going to stop dating? No. It's very frustrating. It's very annoying. It's very tough. But the goal is to get married. So if you're dating and you forget you're dating to get married, you're also in a bad place. This is a lot of society today. And then you also won't get married. But then you're just not sure what you're doing on those dates. And then you say, why am I spending so much money? Why am I spending so much time? But on the flip side, if I'm dating for a marriage, even though it's taking a long time, I'm not going to give up. I have a critical goal. I want to get married. So I don't stop dating or I don't, the value of the date and the value of getting married didn't fall away. It might become frustrating. It might be annoying. We're telling people and we're telling ourselves that this is my whole goal and purpose of life. People need that. We need that. And so would you do actions based on your goal of life? Absolutely. If you want to get married, you go on a date? Of course. Right? If you want to make money, do you work? Yes. If you want to bring Mashiach, you have to do the avodah, tshuva, polish the buttons, or we're way past that, right?
Yeah.
Just be makabel pnei Mashiach.
So it's not easy for anyone to accept this, or not accept is not the wrong word. It's not easy for anyone to live their whole life with this active knowledge and active feeling that they are on this mission.
How come?
Because it's our, because whatever, that's the reality that we live in. But
I think it's because we don't really believe in it, which I'm blaming Hashem for real. But ultimately, that's our struggle. So, because if we really believed, and this is the Rebbe said that at the core, no one really is demanding God Masai. So, we understand that it's a real struggle. But the real struggle is because it's hesach hadas. It's something which hesach hadas means it's removed from. It's not like I don't feel that one thing is connecting to one item is connected to the next. I don't feel that hesach hadas means my mind's removed. It's not like I don't see it coming into fruition. I don't see how one thing is leading to the next or triggering it. So there's hesach hadas, and it makes it very hard, and it makes our emunah very hard, and the ability to believe very hard. But it doesn't really take away in concept. It actually makes the most sense.
So I think that as Lubavitchers, as Chassidim, we the Rebbe and the chinuch that we got, and the Rebbe's direction where he took us, it is easier to try getting yourself to align with that reasoning. The question is, and this is going back to our job as Shluchim and Lubavitchers to bring it chutza, is this something that you can tell someone that your mission in this world is not to make money, not to just have a family? Forget about stupid reasons. No, it's not even to create a beautiful oasis of goodness in your own family and community. It's really to make a crazy change and do the Eibishter's goal of making a dira d'chleinim. Is that an easy thing to tell someone?
I think we as Lubavitchers have much more trauma than anyone else. So this past Friday night, we went around the table and we asked everyone, what do you know about Mashiach? One thing about Mashiach. Okay, there's 20, 25 people around the table. What do you know about Mashiach? So first of all, the knowledge of Mashiach was very, very low. The most common fact that people knew about Mashiach is that the Rebbe is Mashiach. That was the most common fact that people knew, sincerely. But nobody, so just the information level was very low, and I guess as the Shliach, I should check my scoring on how I'm doing with educating people about Mashiach. But the openness to want to learn about Mashiach and to want to discuss Mashiach was super, super high, because they don't have any trauma that we have. What's our trauma? Our trauma is that we basically were fervently excited and waiting for Mashiach, and it didn't come. We got burned. I'm being very honest. So it's like we got burned, but these people, they're looking for the hope of Mashiach. They're looking to learn about Mashiach. It's such a foundational principle of Yiddishkeit, and it's so talked about. And the Rebbe made it so talked about that they're excited about it, and they want to learn more about Mashiach. And in general, anything that you're uncomfortable talking about is, I want to say almost always or always, because you're uncomfortable about it. Because if you're comfortable about a topic, you could share it. Listen, when people talk to their children, right, about what it means to be married, right, it all depends on how comfortable the parents are, how comfortable the conversation will go. When you talk about really any topic in the world, it's only uncomfortable if you're uncomfortable. But if you're comfortable about it, everyone else is comfortable. And I think for multiple reasons, again, maybe we got burned, maybe because there was so much on fights in Lubavitch about Mashiach, and Mashiach became a trigger word for us. They don't have that trauma. So the trauma that we have, whether internally because, what happened between the fights in Lubavitch, or because maybe we got picked on, and maybe there were times that people did try to, pick on, and maybe there still are some people who try to label Lubavitcher or sideline Lubavitch for different reasons, but ultimately we have trauma. But the average person in our community has no trauma, and they just have excitement around Mashiach. So I want to say it's all in us. And even
So how do we heal?
That's a good question. And maybe like this week's topic, maybe through them, just like through the youth, the parents heal, maybe through realizing that there is optimism and that people are very open and they want to learn about Mashiach, and the concept is so normal and so natural, maybe that will make us realize the same truth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would help us.
So you brought up this week's paper. So just this week's paper is the idea of before Mashiach comes, there'll be a lot of chutzpah, and it goes on. The Gemara continues with a bunch of things that are going to happen that are negative, and of course the Rebbe's view on it, the Rebbe's take, which of course we discuss in the paper, is that klalos or brachas. At the end of the day, there's a deeper truth to this condition that really is a beautiful thing and really could be used for good. So there's a lot of times we look around at ourselves and the younger generation, but some of the younger generation in ourselves, and our feeling is it's all going off. No one's taking anything seriously anymore. And the perspective that the Rebbe is telling us is that itself is moving us towards Mashiach when we take that non-conformism and moving it forward. So I'm asking you, as a shliach who is dealing with the new crowd, the young professionals, so you're seeing the world in middle of Manhattan. This is really your world. Maybe you can share some optimism with us on the chutzpah yaski moving us towards Mashiach.
And I think that's an incredible idea, let's say, to talk about. I mean, how much does that resonate? That the world is changing, that the disruption in industries happens so fast today. People are like, wow, what does this mean? What does this mean? Mashiach's coming, Mashiach mindset, just a Mashiach way of thinking. Imagine instead of saying Mashiach mindset, if we would have just replaced that word with like new frontiers, or the truth is going to be exposed, or disruptors and disruption, or maybe call it the ultimate goal. These are things that people love. And I think we're in a world that disruption is happening at a rapid pace. And I've never had a bad encounter talking about Mashiach. People may ask questions, sure, but questions are good. They want to understand. We want to understand. I need to understand. There's never been a bad experience. No one ever stormed out of the Chabad house and said, "Oi, I can't believe the Jewish people believe in Mashiach." But really, if we just share ideas to ourselves and to the world around us and to our community about look how the shifting changed, and the Rebbe did this right a lot. He tried to show how the world is coming closer to Mashiach, and now the world is changing even at a much more rapid pace with all the different social media platforms that each one is outdoing each other. I mean, now we have AI. AI is like an embodiment of all the topics we spoke about Mashiach, right? Where there is going to be information overflooding the world, where everything is recounted, everything is recorded, nothing is hidden, everything's available. I mean, it's like Malhar's Deus Hashem compounded to another level. But with so much overload and stimulation of, social media platforms, people are actually looking desperately for also meaning. And Mashiach is meaning. Yiddishkeit is meaning, but the core meaning of Yiddishkeit is that we're on a purpose. We're in a meaning. What's the meaning of Yiddishkeit? That there's an Eibishter. We have a relationship with the Eibishter. We have Hashem loves us and Hashem needs us together. We have a purpose, and that gives purpose to life. Relevance. Everyone needs relevance. Every human being needs relevance. Why are people so desperate for clicks on their social media or how many viewers you had? Because they want relevance. Am I relevant to this world? Am I needed in this world? Mashiach says, you are so relevant. The whole world is waiting for you to do one more action, like the Rambam says, that you're going to be the one to bring Mashiach. Right? The relevance level of Mashiach makes life so relevant. You're so needed. You're so important. please get on board the mission. We desperately need you. We need you to put on those tefillin. We need you to light those Shabbos candles because the whole world needs you to do this. God, Hashem, needs you. You're relevant to Hashem. And the entire Jewish people, you're relevant to them because we're on a goal and we need you as part of this goal. And the whole world needs you. So in a time where people are grasping and so desiring relevance, Moshiach is just screaming true relevance. You're relevant to Hashem. You're relevant to every Yid. Your actions make a real difference. You really make a difference. Not these fake videos that you post and people like, which everyone knows is fake. But people are internally and in more private settings desperate for real relevance. And Mashiach is the greatest relevance we could provide to somebody and to ourselves. We can't just be salespeople who are fake. We need relevance. What am I doing on my shluchas? What am I doing? Sacrificing my life, or maybe I'm enjoying my life, but whatever it is, right? Why? What's my relevance? Why does the Rebbe need me on the Upper East Side of Manhattan? Why does Rebbe need every shliach? Am I needed? Is this important? Is it going to make a difference? Am I just trying to create another program and get more people to the program and then create a building and then try to cover the mortgage of the building? Where's it all going? What am I doing? I need Mashiach to remember that I'm relevant and everything we're doing is relevant. And each shliach and every yid and every chassid desperately relevance, purpose. The Rebbe spoke about it every Shabbos. Dir b'tachtonim. The Rebbe spoke about, if you're learning Project L'Kutei Sichos, shout out to your brother, right? So, basically, every Shabbos, it all comes down to another explanation and nuance and detail in Dir b'tachtonim. What Dir b'tachtonim? Mashiach. Right? That there's going to be a Dir b'tachtonim. And there's no reason why, not only a reason, people today need it more than ever, especially in a world where they're grasping for so much fake relevance. We can give them real relevance and mission and talk about Mashiach in those words. Let's talk about the goal. Let's talk about the mission. Let's talk about the purpose. If there's no Mashiach, there's no goal. All the terms is, what are we doing? So for me to get to Olam Haba, okay, but then why is it needed? What's the goal? Mashiach.
And it's the new generation. The young are going to embarrass the old, not in a bad way, but it basically means it's if it wasn't done by our parents, it wasn't done by 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's going to have to be done by us.
This is why the Rebbe gave the example, right, of the child on the giant's shoulders, right, so who are we? But we're in the now. Again, I work with young professionals. I like to say we're the generation of now. Young professionals, the generation of now, are going to create the future. So we're going to create the future. But how are we going to create the future? Okay, technically get married, have children. But also, okay, now we're going to bring Mashiach now. And then that will create the future. So we're riding on everything that's happened before. We're not negating it, but now we can do it now. And we will bring Mashiach now. And we have to tell that to ourselves every day. There was a guy in the Chabad house, his name was Shammai. He used to come and he used to say affirmations to himself. He'd take out his tefillin and he used to say, I can put on tefillin and I will put on tefillin. I can put on tefillin and I will put on tefillin. And he would hype himself up, And I think in spite of Hashem not bringing Mashiach till today, we have to say, we can bring Mashiach and we will bring Mashiach. And then say again, I can bring Mashiach and I will bring Mashiach. Because that's what we can and will do. But we really have to believe it through saying, Hashem, I know your job is to make it difficult, but I know that ultimately we can and will bring Mashiach. And that's what we're here to do. And there's nothing more empowering than telling yourself every day, I can bring Mashiach and I will bring Mashiach. I can bring Mashiach and I will bring Mashiach. There's nothing more empowering. Nothing more empowering.
That's the Danatzach. The two B and Danatzach. Danatzach means we win. We won. We will win. We could win. It's all in one.
I do want to mention, which I think I've said through a few different ways, but I think it's important, is that Mashiach is the most central conversation that Yiddishkeit wants us to have, that the Rebbe wants us to have, but ultimately that every human being wants to have with us. So by shying away from it, talking about Moshiach, we're shying away from the conversation that everyone would like to have. Conversation of goal, of purpose, of mission, of utopia, of a better life, a better tomorrow, a brighter future. These aren't bonus items of life. These are the central conversations that a human being needs. We need hope to be able to live. Every person has so much struggle, so many hardships, whether you're a child, you're a teenager, you're single, you're married, you're elderly, whatever you are in life, there's a lot that could weigh you down. But when we talk about Mashiach, that gives the hope. There's going to be a brighter future. There'll be a better tomorrow. We're here with a purpose. My suffering has a purpose. We're going to say, Oitcha Hashem ki anavti. That's a crazy statement. Thank you, Hashem, for the tough time. Yeah, because these sufferings are not suffering. This is a purpose. We're working towards something. There's a goal. It's so empowering. And leaving that out of the conversation is like leaving the most empowering, important message that we need and everyone else needs. It's not a bonus conversation. It's the central conversation that needs to happen. And that's why it doesn't have to be Mashiach classes as a separate side item. It should be the middle of every conversation. Do you always have to use the word Mashiach? Maybe not. Maybe sometimes the word Mashiach tells people, shut my brain right now. Okay. So use the word goal. Use the word purpose, what we're heading towards, building. We're building a home with Hashem. Use words that you connect with and people connect with. Hope, a brighter tomorrow, a better future. This is what every conversation, ultimately of human conversation, wants to be. I mean, people are struggling right now about Eretz Yisrael and our hostages. What do people want to know? That it will stop. There will be an end to the fighting. How is it going to be an end to the fighting? Mashiach. So when you say Mashiach, they shut down. Okay, you're not being realistic. It's true. Again, blaming Hashem for that. But what that does do for us is reminds us that this is what people want to hear. And so, yes, tell ourselves the mantra, I can bring Mashiach. I will bring Mashiach. This will bring Mashiach. It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. And that's what the Rebbe spoke and wanted us to know. Yes, we're going to bring Mashiach. Mashiach's going to come now. It's going to happen. It's not something that's just fake. It's going to happen, and I'm going to make it happen. And that is so empowering. Hayom, but Hayom is what Mashiach said, right? It's Rabbi Yosef ben Levi. It's going to happen. It's going to happen today. Tell myself, I could bring Mashiach today. If we really internalize the message, even a little bit, we'd be not only passionate about Mashiach, we'd be passionate about everything we do. Imagine how Rabbi Yosef ben Levi lived that day. I always think about it. He had to be like so overly joyous. Granted, he probably had a huge crash the next day when he got upset. And he said, "Oh, Telio, you know, what happened?" True, it's very frustrating, you know, the high and the low. But it's the central optimism and excitement and hope that every human needs, wants, and that we need to provide them. We just have to just say to ourselves, but it's real. And then to them, and this is real.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you one more question to finish off with this. It's not fully in line with the rest of the conversation, but I feel like this is something, an issue, a question that will probably come up more from backgrounded people, like, you know, something like that. And that is, you said a lot of people don't know about Mashiach, so they're fine, right? It's good. It's hope. It's good. It's beautiful. There are people that know Yaya, they know Geulah, they know they were told that everyone's going to die a bunch. I don't know what they were told. Or even if they don't know all that, but they know that it's disrupting their lives and they've just bought their house. You know, they finally, after years, figured it out. This is something your daughter was asking earlier. This is how do you build a beautiful version of Mashiach? How do you actually paint the image of Mashiach actually coming? Yeah, when it's hope, everyone likes it. Hope is good, but when it actually starts happening, then it gets more scary.
When it becomes
I'm not worried that Mashiach's coming is going to be scary. My point is, how do you tell someone? How do you explain to someone that when you're marketing as hope, then of course everyone's going to be like, who's not on board? Well, you're marketing as, oh no, it's not going to look hope that whatever you want is going to be. It's going to be a certain way, right? We're going to go here, we're going to go there, and this is going to happen, and we're going to move, and we're going to go to Yerushalayim, we're going to speak I don't know what language. How do you paint that in a beautiful way?
You know, you remind me of the joke, right? The guy who comes home right? He comes home, he tells his wife, the rabbi said, Mashiach's going to come, we're going to go to Eretz Yisrael. This is in Ukraine. So he says, but we just got a new cow. And now Mashiach's going to come. And she says, don't worry, Hashem, who saved us from Parai and from Haman, he'll also save us from Mashiach. So yeah, there's a lot of distorted, ridiculous ideas of Mashiach. But if we just realize to tell people the truth. So what's the truth? An example. The truth is that we now see life through the lens of a person who doesn't see Hashem and who's in Geulah. So we're in Geulah mindset. So talk about that and say, this is a Geulah mindset. There's a Geulah mindset, right? It's like somebody before they start therapy, you have a lot of pain. We got to get you out of the pain, right? So you only could think in pain, right? It's like the goat, right? The goat who his friend always said, go look, break your neck and look up, break your neck and look up. The goat's like, I don't want to look up. I like looking at the ground. Break your neck. Finally, he cranks his neck. He looks up and he sees the moon. And his friend says, wow, isn't that beautiful? He says, yeah, a beautiful piece of cheese I see, right? Yeah, all he sees is food. That's all he knows. We're in a Geulah mindset, so we think that all we want is materialism. But let's think about it differently. What do we really want? You want to see happiness, connection, purpose, feel good, all those things. That's what Mashiach is, right? So talk about it, but don't also, yell at somebody or get upset at them for asking the question. Embrace the question, share the answer. Now, it happens to be Mashiach in the Gemara, and is going to be the greatest times physically as well, right? And we tell people, Madana Mitzvim Kafar, talk about that, how every delight, you won't have to struggle to make money. Amazing, everyone's happy. There'll be no suffering. Incredible. Everyone will be healed. There'll be no medical conditions. Incredible. Who doesn't want that? It's not scary. That's beautiful. Learn the Gemara. Gemara and Sanhedrin, right? Chelik, which most of the world is learning right now. It's all about Mashiach, right? Learn the Rambam with other people. It's fascinating. It's eye-opening. It's so interesting. First of all, it's interesting, and that will answer most of the questions. And don't shy away when they say, is the Rebbe Mashiach or not? Don't shy away. Whatever your Mashpia told you to answer them. Truth always is accepted and appreciated, and then people like it when you say your truth. You don't have to tell them that has to be their truth. Maybe that's also you probably talk to your mashpia. But if you have a mashpia, you should probably get one if you don't, and if you're open enough to have these honest conversations. And but whatever it is, having honest, answer the questions, share your feelings, share your thoughts. Is it important? Share that. If it's not important, share that it's not important. However you see it, but don't be afraid. No, why are you? Nothing to be afraid of. People don't like you when you're afraid. People like when you share your truths, your honesties. Mm-hmm. They like you more. They connect you more, and they say you're not afraid. Why should they be afraid? Mm-hmm. Yes, there's some from people who also have, just like Lubavitch has Moshiach trauma. They also have Moshiach trauma. Okay. So we do therapy. We talk things through. That's okay.
Yeah. You were saying to look at the sources. I want to do one last plug for the Alef. I think that might
jump right in.
The way it's built is there's so many articles about Mashiach that paint Mashiach beautifully. The idea was it has to be about learning, not just inspiration. Because limud, this is the Rebbe's point, when you learn about something, you can actually mean something to you. So that's why every paper has two texts. Legit text, we don't hurt the text. The text is the way it is. Then, of course, afterwards, we give some commentary to give more context. For the most part, the first text is Nigla. So it's going to be the base idea. Okay? And the second one is not always Chassidus, but it's going to be something al pi Chassidus. It'll be the Maral, it'll be a Zoyar, it'll be a Archaim, whatever it's going to be. And that gives you the Chassidus perspective. Because I've also learned some Chelek in the past. Sister Mary and I'm learning it now, but we can't talk about it.
Makes two of us.
I'm a couple of days off, though, so I'm a little behind. At least that. But, and the Rambam, there's a lot of things that you read, and like, the Lubavitch version of Mashiach isn't always there as you see it. Like you see things there that says it's going to be longer, shorter, coming, whatever. A lot of things from before. Not every Gemara does the Rebbe always quote, because it does not always, not that they're not true, but it's not necessarily in the line of the way the Rebbe is explaining it to us. The Rambam is pretty straight. Okay, I'm going off track for a second. But the point is, because a lot of the Gemaras in Chelek or whatever it is, they say a lot of Mashiach truth, but it's said in a way which we don't necessarily, doesn't necessarily have the Chassidus, the Rebbe's perspective built in. And if you don't learn it with the right Mefarshim, then you can come to different Maskanas. Not that they're wrong, Chas v'shalom, it's not the Chassidus version of it. So when you put one of these Mekayers, which again, every single paper is based off a Sikha to some extent, and then, we find a creative avenue, a creative, interesting source to take us till the end, like that, you're getting the original sources. You're learning about what the Gemaras have to say. Gemaras, Midrashim, whatever it's going to be, Rambam sometimes, and then you're always getting it in the packaged Chassidus Deir version. That's what we do over here.
I think that's awesome. I want to make a note that, again, we're not writing the script. I mean, you guys are writing the beautiful Aleph, but the Torah is the Torah. We don't have to defend the Torah. The Torah speaks for itself. We also shouldn't hide the Torah, though. There's no part of the Gemara someone wants to learn it. We learn the Gemara. Do I know all the answers? Of course I don't know all the answers, right? That's okay. Yeah, I have questions. We learn the Gemara. We learn the Gemara Chelik. Very frustrating Gemaras. Very frustrating. Very upsetting, right? Okay. I'm not, I'm saying I might be a Hashem's spokesperson, but I didn't write the text. And it's Hashem's responsibility. We'll discuss them. Be open and be honest about that. And if someone asks you a question you don't know, I don't know the answer. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, that's upsetting. Yeah, that doesn't seem to work out. Or I don't know the answer. Let's go find it and then go find the answer. Maybe sometimes we're afraid of engaging in conversation because we don't know everything. Okay, just say that. It's just a maturity issue of life, is to say, I don't know that. Have enough children, and when your children grow up, you'll know you don't know everything, right? So say, yeah, wow, that's interesting. That's fascinating to learn that. Let's explore that further. Or that's a great question. I don't know the answer. That's okay. We don't have to know all the answers. We don't know all the answers. And don't be afraid of learning things or talking about things and not knowing all the answers.
It's a bit tricky because when there's overload of information, let's say the Gemara there, it says, I didn't learn it yet, but that Hillel says, Moshiach came ready. So there's so much Chassidus on it. There's ways to explain it. And there's some ciphers, don't ask. But you don't want someone who's new to him, this whole thing, it isn't built into his bones that Mashiach's the reality. That's a very not settling Gemara.
I'm not saying open the Gemara, read him that quote, close the Gemara.
Fine.
But if a Yid who wants to learn with you and you're learning through the whole Gemara and that's a quote there, yeah, that's an opinion.
Yeah,
a baseline, that's an opinion of hell that we don't pass him like. Okay, that's a baseline understanding. This is how Gemara works. This is how Torah works. Don't try to. Yeah, if you're making a spreadsheet or a handout, right, for your share, you don't have to quote every quote that you're not going to explain in that class. Sure, but don't be afraid that someone's going to find something. Some shluchim are afraid that people are going to come to 770 and see different things. What are you afraid? This is an open. We're talking about AI, right? Malahar's Deus Hashem. You can't be afraid. This is a world, and this is what it is. Okay. Could you explain everyone's actions in the world, or you can't? Fine, but this is an open society we live in. I live in Manhattan. We're right next to Brooklyn. Right next to 770. This is what it is, and I lean into it. I love it personally, and most people come and they love it, and it's so encouraging and so much energy and so uplifting. But we're not at a time that we hide information. Communists hide information. We're not hiding pieces of Hashem's Torah. I'm not saying it has to be the first quote you highlight, when to somebody, but we're not afraid. You can't be Hashem could be afraid. That's his problem. But we love it. We sell the product. Here's what it is. We're not trying to sell it for something that it isn't. We're not trying to rewrite it to make it work. Even a maskabel doesn't mean cutting things out. It means trying to help people understand. Great, let's understand. And if I don't understand, I'll say, you know what? Yeah, let's understand that more. I don't know what that exactly means. Sure, but it doesn't mean cutting things out. That's what the censors did to the Rambam. We don't do that. We don't cut things out. You could cut things out of this interview, don't get me wrong, but
no, I'm not saying to cut out a Gemara. I'm saying I'm not here to cut out a Gemara. Just it isn't the first text on Mashiach that I would learn with someone's chelik.
Just like you wouldn't learn that the first mitzvah is you have to kill every member of Amalek.
Yeah.
Okay. Same because the person's just not, you haven't given any framework, any mindset for them to understand. Okay, I agree.
No, again, I'm not.
This isn't the first thing you tell a guy on the Mitzrayim either, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's the second. but that doesn't change from we never hide the truth. It doesn't have to be highlighted each time. We never hide the truth.
And you're right. I think that
listen, just like when you're dating, you don't tell the girl you're dating everything right away, hopefully. Right? But you can't hide.
Mm-hmm.
If you hide, you're a liar.
Yeah.
You can't hide.
And I think at the end of the day, people.
And when you're on a date, there's a lot of things that are not good about you. But Hashem's Torah, it's all good. So ultimately, you can be more confident in Hashem's Torah than in your own position, for your own things that you want to hide.
Well, this was a beautiful conversation. I think it was a lot to think about, and it gave me a lot to think about, and hopefully we'll give others to think about too, and not just to think about, but a little push, a little shove where we need to get it. So thank you very much for sitting with me and having this conversation, and we got work to do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It made me talk more about Moshiach, so I appreciate that. It inspired me to say again, we can bring Moshiach, and we will bring Moshiach.
There we go.